Right. So in the last class, we have gone with the first website, CentralOps. I've shown you what kind of information can we get from that. In today's session, we're going to start with DNS Dumpster. Now, this website, DNS Dumpster, is specifically for DNS records. Now, every organization has a DNS server, and the information stored in that DNS server is called as DNS records. We already know what a DNS server is, guys. We talked about that in the networking sessions. I hope you can recall. It is to convert or again translate any domain name to its exact IP address and vice versa. So if I search over here for DNS dumpster, uh, uh, yeah, DNS dumpster, click on the first link. And now, as mentioned, just like any other website, you have an input field here, where in this input field, you can enter the required domain name to acquire information about. So for example, if you want to get information regarding Tesla itself again, tesla.com, I can enter that domain name here. And now when I hit enter, you will notice first things first, it shows me all the servers of Tesla. So where are the DNS servers located for Tesla? Again, they are in Central America and on the west side of America. And it right now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 DNS servers. So again, these host names might not be that important, but these IP addresses are. So these IPs are always supposed to be noted down. When you perform information gathering, these IP addresses are very important because on these IPs itself, you perform penetration testing and scanning later on. So it's very important to note down these IPs when you perform information gathering. So right now, Tesla has 7 DNS servers. And in those 7 DNS servers, all the remaining rest of this information is stored. So right now, Tesla has MX records. MX record in the sense, what is the mail server for Tesla? MX record again gives you information regarding the mail servers. So Tesla right now is using Outlook.com for their mail. Okay, and this is the exact IP address of that server. Scroll down much further. This is the main domain of Tesla, and these are the subdomains of Tesla. Subdomains in the sense are the websites that belong to the same organization, Tesla.com. Okay, and these are their exact IP addresses again. Okay, of each and every server belonging to Tesla.com. Okay. Again, as mentioned, as a penetration tester, it's very important that you note down these IPs, okay, because they are helpful for you later on in the scanning and in the pen testing fields. And the same information shown here is shown also in a graphical format, representing the same data, where each box here represents one server belonging to Tesla itself. Okay. This is the domain name, and this is the IP address belonging to that device. Okay. So when you perform pen testing for Tesla, it's your responsibility to check the vulnerabilities on each of these devices one by one. But again, please note, you have to be careful about the scope of pen testing. So if there's any subdomains excluded, you have to be careful and not test those certain subdomains or those certain servers. Okay. So this is regarding DNS dumpster. Moving forward, after this, we have the next website called uGetSignal. Now, this is a website which contains a lot of tools on it. So if you go to your browser and if you search for uGetSignal, click on the first link here. This is what the website looks like. And one important tool over here is your reverse IP domain check. Now, this is a website which can show you whether your target website is being hosted on a shared hosting platform or a dedicated hosting platform. Now, what do I mean by that? What is shared hosting and what is dedicated hosting? Now, whenever I go to a DNR, a website like GoDaddy or BigRock to host my website, the first thing they'll ever ask you is, what kind of a hosting plan do you want? Do you want a shared hosting plan or a dedicated hosting plan? So if I go to GoDaddy here, and let's say if I want to purchase a domain and host a website like Shoaib cybersec.com. Now, when I click on search domains, right now you can notice that domain is available. I can purchase that domain and register for it. Now, when I register and host my website, there are two types of hosting plans. One is called a shared hosting, and the other one is called a dedicated hosting. What I mean by shared hosting is you'll have one physical server maintained by GoDaddy. On that one physical server, multiple websites will be hosted. So that one single server is being shared across multiple websites here. So that is called as shared hosting. Okay. Now these websites could belong to the same organization or they can belong to different other organizations as well. So I can have a website here like let's say flipkart.com a website like Amazon.com, a website like, let's say, Durgasoft.com. Again, then I can have my website as well, ShoaibCybersec.com. So again, along with other websites, my website is also being hosted on the same server. So this server will get one single IP, something like 1.2.3.4, but on that same server, multiple websites will be hosted. So each website will be given a different port number on this device to access it. So don't worry about port numbers, guys. We'll talk about that in a later stage. But for now, this is called shared hosting, where one single server is being shared across multiple websites. Okay. Now, there's something also called as dedicated hosting, where on dedicated hosting, you have one single server. And on that one single server, your websites only belong to the same organization. So it could either contain only one website or multiple websites belonging to the same organization itself. Okay. So this whole server could belong to Google. So one website could be www.google.com. Okay. The other one could be, let's say, mail.google.com. And there could be one more, let's say, maps.google.com. Okay, all of these websites belong to the same organization. And this is called as dedicated hosting. One whole server is dedicated to only one organization. Okay, so that server can host single website or multiple websites, but all of those websites belong to the same organization. Okay, that's called as dedicated hosting. Okay. Now, what is the advantage of shared and what is the advantage of dedicated? Oh yeah, Charles, go ahead. Yeah, that is also possible, but that still falls under shared hosting itself. When you have websites from different domains in a same server, that's definitely shared hosting, even if it contains subdomains of the same organization. Okay, right. So now, what are the advantages of shared hosting and what are the advantages of dedicated hosting? So you talk about shared hosting, guys. Now, first things first, you're sharing the resources of the entire server among multiple different websites. So one good advantage of shared hosting is that it has good, or I would say it's cost efficient. So there's good cost efficiency in this. Okay. Rather than you paying for the entire server, you would only pay for a part of the server. And thereby the cost for hosting your website will definitely reduce drastically. So rather than paying for the entire server, you would pay only for 1/10 of the server because you're requiring only those amount of resources. So first thing is cost efficiency. Secondly, it is again better for maintenance. So rather than hosting multiple different servers for each website, you're hosting one single server, okay, for multiple websites. So therefore, you're reducing the space required for all the servers in your organization. So it's definitely better for maintenance as well. But the issue over here that lies is with the security. So no matter how secure my website is, if there is any other website which might contain a vulnerability, let's say if there's durgasoft.com, this website which might contain a loophole. In such a scenario, what a hacker could do is it could utilize this website to take its loophole and attack the entire server. Okay, so if there's a loophole on one single website, all the other websites will fall under the risk because a hacker could get the entire backend access to the server, and through the backend, he could try to steal the information from other websites as well. So no matter how cost efficient it is, if there is at least one website on the server which is vulnerable to an attack, the other websites also might fall as a risk to it. So when you talk about the security point of view, it's not so secure. Okay, that's an important point to note. Okay, but when you talk about dedicated hosting, guys, you are only concerned about your website's security. All of these websites belong to the same organization. So no matter what, if you get hacked on all websites, okay, or none of them get hacked. So you have to check only about your website's security. You're not concerned about others' websites. Okay, but again, as mentioned, it's comparatively safer. Comparatively safer. And secondly, disadvantages, it's quite expensive because you're purchasing the entire server for yourself It's quite expensive and it needs high maintenance as well. Okay, so that's an important point to note because again, since as mentioned, you're taking the entire server for yourself, so some resources might go waste if you're not hosting too many websites on it. Okay, because usually your servers can host multiple websites. If you're purchasing the entire server only for one website, that's quite a waste of money, I would say. Okay, so again, these are the advantages and disadvantages of shared and dedicated hosting. And if you want to figure out which website is shared and which website is dedicated, you can always go to this website called Reverse IP Domain Check. So now when I enter here, let's say Amazon.com, this tells me on the server of Amazon, how many other websites are hosted. So when I click on check, this now tells me there are 15 websites hosted on Amazon.com. So this is an example of a shared hosting website, guys. Some are, again, some are belonging to Amazon. If you notice, this is Amazon, this is Amazon, this is Amazon. But there are other websites which are not belong to Amazon. Okay, there's something like smartdoors.com, you're full of greatadvice.com, etc. Privacy.com. So this is an example of a shared hosting plan. If I search for something else, let's say Tesla, tesla.com. Now Tesla here is a dedicated hosting. So you can see only there's one domain hosted on the server. And the whole web server is allocated for this one single website. So this is an example of a dedicated hosting. Okay. Earlier, Amazon was an example for shared hosting. Okay, so this is how you can figure out if it's shared or dedicated. So if your website doesn't contain a vulnerability, what you try to do is you try to find vulnerabilities in other websites in a shared hosting plan. And through those vulnerabilities, you might try to get access to the entire server. So that's quite important to know regarding the uGetSignal website. Okay. Any questions, any doubts up to this point? Vamsi, Charles, Benji, Wahab. Yeah, okay. Moving forward, there's next website called Shodan.io. Now, this is on the one of the websites which requires a payment, guys. So this is not a free resource. But again, when you work for an organization in the upcoming days, your organization is going to pay for it. So I would recommend you not purchasing any subscription for this. It's quite expensive. Again, Shodan is called the search engine for the Internet of Everything. Just give me 1 second, guys. Some background disturbance from my end. Apologies about that. So as mentioned now, the next website to talk about is Shodan.io. So this is also commonly known as the search engine for the Internet of Everything. Now don't worry what it means. I'm going to explain now. So if you search for Shodan and click on the first link here, as you can see, it's called search engine for the Internet of Everything. And the point over here, what it means basically is no matter what keyword you search over here for, whether it be an operating system name, whether it be a vendor name, whether it be a certain application name, a service name, whatever keyword you search for, this website is capable of finding every single device on the internet linked with that keyword. So it can map out the whole internet and tell you where are all the devices located linked with your certain keyword. So for example, let's say if I have to figure out how many websites are there all around the world hosted on Microsoft Windows 2012 server, I can just do a simple search here, Windows 2012. And now when I hit enter, now this tells me exactly all around the world how many servers are there that are still running on Windows 2012. As you can see over here, it says Windows 2012. Okay. And it gives you the IP address of that server and tells you which countries it's being hosted from and which organization it belongs to as well. So right now, all around the world, there are I think this is 2,318,572 devices or in Indian counting, that's like 23 lakhs 18,572 devices. Okay, so these are all the devices which are still working on Windows 2012. Now, for example, if I do find a vulnerability in Windows 2012 someday, we now exactly know how many devices can be affected by it and what are the devices which will get affected by it all around the world. Okay, so according to the country wise as well, it tells you how many devices are hosted in which country, as you can see: China, United States, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Japan, etc., etc. These are all the countries. Okay. Now, not just operating system, you can also search for services as well. So if I want to figure out how many websites are hosted on Linux, I can search for the Apache service. Linux web servers are called Apache servers. Okay. So if I search for Apache and any version, let's say 2.2.9 or 8 or whatever it is, and if I hit enter, this exactly tells me all around the world how many servers are there running on Linux on that exact version of Apache. Again, as mentioned, Apache is the name for the web server given in Linux, guys. So again, right now, all around the world, there's 15,000 devices still running on Apache 2.2.8. Gives you the exact IP, gives you the exact organization and the country where the website is hosted from. Okay, so this is about Shodan, guys. There's a lot of other uses for Shodan as well, which might not be covered in the scope of our syllabus, but this is what it can do, and a lot more. Okay, but again, as mentioned, it gives you a complete picture of how many devices are located all around the world regarding the keyword that you search for. That's why it's called search engine for the Internet of Everything. So wherever there is any device all around the internet, it can search for your keyword and give you the matching results from all around the world. Okay, that's what Shodan does. Moving forward, after Shodan, there is hunter.io. That's the next website to talk about. Now, this does not require a payment initially, but at least you need a LinkedIn account, guys, to get information from this website. So unless and until you have a LinkedIn account, you cannot get information from it. And this website is to give you all the leaked email addresses of any employee from any organization. So again, employees most of the times paste their emails online somewhere. So again, this hunter.io can fetch these email IDs from any part of the internet. Okay. So if I show you this practically, I can go back to my browser here, search for hunter.io. Oh, yeah, email hunter.io. And now I can click on resources. No, I think I have to go for products here. Yeah, products, and click on email finder. And you can find email by company. And now I can enter a domain name here. Let's say if I go for tesla.com. Now it tells me exactly how many email addresses for Tesla's organization have been leaked online. So right now for Tesla, there are 665 email addresses leaked online. So if I click on this, these are all the emails. As mentioned, you need to log in here with your LinkedIn, guys, to get the entire results. Okay. But again, just to show you what these emails look like, I can click on any of these websites here, open up these websites. So it also shows you from which website that email got, as you can see. So if I go to these websites, in the URL itself, you can find the email actually. So if I go to the right, and you see there's an email here, ncrandall@Tesla. This is an email belonging to certain organization's employee. Okay, NC Randall. If I had to search for it, I can zoom out a bit, or I can do a quick search NC Randall. One second. I think it should be somewhere over here. Yeah, as you can see, in this entire web page, in this one single line of code, there's a person called Nathan Crandall. Okay, and his email is ncrandall@tesla.com. Okay, so your hunter.io is capable of finding all these email addresses leaked on various websites on the internet. Okay, so this is one email. There's one more over here. There's one more called rlistship@tesla.com, found on this website. Yeah, Charles. Oh yeah, again, you can just go back to the website hunter.io. This is the official website. You go to products, you go to email finder, and here click on find email by company. And just enter the domain name, Tesla or Amazon or whatever it is. So if I go for, let's say, another website, hmm, any other website that you want to mention, guys? but that website doesn't exist, right? So if I just switch to website, there's no website as such at the moment. You can try an existing one. Let's say if I try for netflix.com. So right now for Netflix, there's around 874 email addresses leaked. So if I click on this link here, these are all the emails of employees belonging to Netflix organization. So if I click on this, these are all the emails, as you can see. Okay, so if I open up that, you can see there's email addresses mentioned here. AGEBHARDT@Netflix. Then C Ronaldo @Netflix. So these are the emails mentioned here somewhere in the entire web page. They might be here somewhere. Again, I have to do a quick search though. Okay. But this is how you can find the email addresses of any employee belonging to the organization of that certain, I mean, again, of the employee belonging to that certain organization from Hunt. Okay. Again, these email addresses are used by hackers to perform social engineering attacks, right? So they can create, in the upcoming sessions, we learn how do hackers generate malwares. So they can send malwares on these emails. And if the user clicks on it, you can get entire access to their device and the remote connection to the entire organization as well, if possible. Okay. So again, in order to send that malicious software, you need to know whom to send it to. So to get those addresses, you can use hunter.io. This is what hackers utilize to get information regarding the employees of any organization. Okay, hunter.io. Any questions, any doubts up to this point? Mm, there's a website for that actually, Charles. Again, I think if I remember it correctly, it's called Have I Been Bond or something, if I remember correctly. Yeah, this is the one. To check if your email has been leaked and if your passwords have been leaked anywhere online in data breaches. So if you enter your email here, so let's say if I enter my email, like let's say this is my email, johnwick114@gmail.com, one of my temporary emails. So if I search, this now exactly shows me how many places I might have used this email. So as you can see, it says, oh no, Bond. So in one of the data breaches, this email was actually found. Okay. So again, if I scroll down, it should tell me. Oh, it used to earlier tell me actually as well where my email has been released actually. Mm, it's not showing that information right now at the moment. One data breach. Let me click on that. No, but again, this is just basically showing you this was one website which would actually show you where your website was actually leaked. Mm, there are websites for that. One second. I can't remember what that website was. This was one of them. Have I Been Born was one of them. Mm, you can actually get it from your Google account as well, actually. Signing the Google, click on My Account, and under Security, click on Authorization and Applications and Sites, and it shows you what all websites your email has been linked or subscribed on, is what it says. But there's actually another website as well for this. Can't remember the name of that website. Although if I do find it, I'll share it again, Charles. One of them is this website called Have I Been Born. It shows you if your email has been leaked somewhere and if your password has been a subject of data breaches or not. Okay, so this is one way. Okay, and but again, if I do find other websites, I'll show those as well. Cutout.co. This is one website which says in this website, my email was leaked, is what it says. Let me try one more, another email. Let's say this is one of my other emails as well. Oh yeah, now you can see it shows you. So this website over here has been leaked on these websites: Big Basket, Sheg, Nitro, Telegram, Wattpad, etc., etc. So it shows you where my email has been registered and from which websites it might have been leaked online, is what it says. Okay. So yeah, this is one website, have I been pawned? And the other one is, as mentioned, from your Google account itself. Find the email on the top right dot, click on settings, okay, and check for where your email has been authorized. So there are multiple steps available on Quora. Okay. Yeah. So again, that's one way, guys, as mentioned, to check if your email has been leaked anywhere online for your personal accounts, for your Gmail accounts also. Okay. Moving forward, after Hunter.io, we have the next website called Netcraft. Now, this is a website to find all the subdomains of an organization. As mentioned, the organization can have one main domain and multiple other subdomains as well. Usually in a subdomain, the prefix of the website changes. Example, if you have google.com, so Google is the main domain there. And along with Google, these are all the other subdomains: mail.google, maps.google, translate.google, drive.google. All those are the subdomains. Okay. So if you don't find a vulnerability in the main domain, as a pen tester, it's your responsibility to start checking for subdomains and the vulnerabilities on them. But to find all the subdomains, it's quite a hectic task manually. That's why we use this website called Netcraft. This website is capable of finding all the subdomains for any organization. So if I click on the first link here, I can click on resources. And in resources, I can click on search research tools. Sorry. And in research tools, we have an option here called search DNS. And now when I click on that, I get an input field here to enter my domain. So if I go for Tesla again, and if I hit enter, it shows me all the subdomains of Tesla. So right now Tesla has 52 subdomains. Okay, and these are all the subdomains of Tesla: auth.tesla, shop.tesla, ir.tesla, profile.tesla, service.tesla, one.tesla, sso.tesla, feedback.tesla. These are all the subdomains of Tesla. And also it gives you much more information as well, telling what operating system it's running on. And also if you want IP address information for that subdomain, you can click on this button here, site report. When you click on that, it gives you the who's information, the IP address information, and all that. Okay, just like your Central Ops website. Okay, so this is the information regarding that specific subdomain of Tesla. Okay, so again, a very handy website to find all the websites linked to a certain organization. Okay, then we have Google database hacking. I'll explain about these two websites in the next session, guys. They're quite lengthy they're quite lengthy and quite a bit complex as well. Okay, but we'll go with the others today, called CVE details and exploit DB, last two websites. Okay. Now, one website over here is a database for vulnerabilities, and one website is a database for exploits, guys. Now, again, if this is a bit confusing to understand what vulnerabilities and exploits are, let me define them first. So there are three important terminologies to know when you work in cybersecurity: what is a vulnerability, what is an exploit, and what is a payload. Let me explain all of them today. So firstly, when you talk about a vulnerability, to define it, it's a loophole, guys. It's a flaw. So vulnerability is a loophole, a flaw, or a weakness, in the security of the application or an individual device or the entire network. Okay. And this flaw allows hackers to attack that network or attack that certain device or application. In order to attack on that, you need something called an exploit. So exploit is the malicious code written, which is compatible with the vulnerability, compatible with the vulnerability to attack on it. And once the system has been successfully attacked, you use something called a payload. It's a subprogram to perform a specific task on the successfully exploited system. Now, I know this might still seem a bit gibberish, but let me explain with an example, guys. So let's say you've gone out of town on a vacation. Okay. And before you go to your vacation, you want your house to be safe. So what you do is you lock your house and then you go to a vacation. But let's assume the lock you have used is quite outdated. It's quite rusty and it's quite old. Okay. So that weak lock for your house acts as a vulnerability, a loophole, or a flaw in the security of your house. Okay. Now, what a hacker would do, what a robber would do in this case is he would try to bring a tool, a hammer or a rock or whatever it is, to attack on that vulnerability, to attack on that weak lock. So the tool that he uses, which is compatible with the vulnerability to attack on it, is called the exploit. So your hammer here is acting as an exploit. Once you enter the house, once the robber enters your house, what he does inside the house is defined by payload. So he can create a duplicate key. If he finds any keys inside your house, he can create duplicate keys to again create a backdoor to access your house whenever he wants to. Or he can install security cameras to monitor you once you're back. Or he can steal information from your house as well. So all of these operations performed on your house after it has been successfully attacked is defined by a payload. So a vulnerability is your lock here, exploit is the hammer, and payload is the task I perform as a hacker, as a robber inside a house. Okay. So to define it again, a vulnerability is a loophole or a flaw in the security of the application or the device or the entire network. Exploit is the malicious code written, which is again used to attack on that vulnerability and compatible. Payload is a subprogram to perform a specific task on the system which has been successfully exploited. Is that clear? Any questions on these three definitions, guys? Wamsi, Charles, Benji, Wahab. Again, quite important definitions, guys. When you go for an interview, these definitions are definitely asked to differentiate between a vulnerability, exploit, and a payload in cybersecurity. So understanding these three concepts is pretty important. Any questions? Yeah, Charles. Sure. Again, as mentioned in our robber scenario, exploit is the tool to attack on the weak lock. So if you have locked your house and if that lock is a bit rusty, the tool I use to attack on that lock is the exploit. So I bring a hammer and I break that lock with that hammer. So hammer here is the exploit. Once I enter your house, what I do inside the house is defined by the payload. Okay. To create a duplicate key, to install security cameras, to steal information from your house, each of these tasks is performed by a payload. Okay. So exploit is the malicious tool, or I would say the malicious code written to attack on the vulnerability. And payload is a subprogram, an additional piece of code to perform certain operations on the successfully exploited system. Okay, so payloads are only used after the system is successfully exploited. Is that clear, Charles? Right. Others, Vamsi, Benji, Wahab. Okay. Assuming there are no questions, guys, moving forward. Again, as mentioned, for each of these is a separate website, which is acting as a database. So there's a website called CVE Details. If you go to your browser, search for CVE Details or so, click on the first link. This is a database for vulnerabilities. So every vulnerability that has been released till date. So if any pen tester or if any cybersecurity researcher, if these people find vulnerabilities, they report it to the companies and the companies release a patch. After that, that vulnerability is published on this website. This is a database for all the vulnerabilities that have been released till date. Okay. So if I search for any application or any device or any software, let's say if I search for Windows 10, now this shows me how many vulnerabilities have been released till date for Windows 10 exactly. So right now, as you can see, there's 3,000 vulnerabilities in total. If I click on that, it shows all the vulnerabilities here. And each vulnerability has a unique CVE ID. So this number you see here is called a CVE identification number. Okay, every vulnerability is a unique number as such. First number in this ID denotes the year in which the vulnerability was found. So this vulnerability was found in 2023. And in that year, this was the 44,216th vulnerability found in that year in this entire database. Okay. And every vulnerability again has a unique score as well, guys. The score ranges from the number 0 to 10, 10 being the highest or most impactful or most dangerous vulnerability, and 0 being less impactful. Might give out some information also, but doesn't allow you to attack the system. Okay. Vulnerabilities with a score of above 7 or above 9 are again very impactful, very dangerous. If that exists, basically a hacker can execute remote code. So you can remotely execute any code or any operation of his choice. Okay. So again, each vulnerability has a unique ID as mentioned, and it is given a score as well, as mentioned. Okay. The higher the score, the more dangerous that vulnerability is. Okay, so that score is called the CVSS score. Okay, so this is a database for vulnerabilities for any application, any software, any device, any vendor, anything. Okay, now to attack on these vulnerabilities, as mentioned, we need something called exploits. So those exploits are available in the exploit DB website, exploit database. So click on the first link. And now if I search over here for Windows 10 again, that's it. Windows 10. And if I search for, these are all the exploits available for Windows 10. Okay. So whatever vulnerabilities you found here, you need to find the matching exploit over here in this website and you attack with that. So if I click on any of these exploits, you will notice this is the malicious code that is written by pen testers to attack on it. So again, you don't need to understand this code, guys. We'll be learning how to use this code in our Kali system to attack the target device. So that's an important point to know. So we'll be working on these exploits and payloads a lot in the upcoming sessions. Okay. So again, as mentioned, all the good things in life are always free. So these websites, CV details and exploit DB are open source. Anyone can publish any vulnerability and any exploit accessible for the entire world. And these two websites are, I would say, one of the most important websites in cybersecurity. CV details for a database for vulnerabilities, exploit DB, a database for exploits. Okay. Any questions, guys? Yeah, go ahead, Chance. No, the companies itself is release that information, Charles. Again, as mentioned, so again, when it's a company, let's say Microsoft, when Microsoft finds a vulnerability on its servers, it releases a patch first. And after releasing the patch, the security update, it releases this vulnerability as well. The company itself publishes these because it needs to tell the clients or its users that their systems might be vulnerable due to a security flaw. So they'll also tell them there's a security flaw and we have also released a patch for it. So update the patch at the earliest. Okay. So again, this is released by the companies itself. Right. Any other questions, guys? That's it for today's session. Nothing further. We do have two more websites as well, Google Database Hacking and Wayback Machine. We'll cover these in the next session, on Monday's session. Okay. Uh, any other questions? Vamsi, Wahab, Benji. Oh, you should be getting an email directly from the institute, Benji. There's no WhatsApp as such. But again, if you have any questions regarding the class or show, you can contact me on my WhatsApp number directly. So there's this number 9849984778. This is my personal WhatsApp number. So again, just in case if you don't get any information from the institute directly, you can contact me on my number on WhatsApp, and I'll inform you. If not, sure, sure. That's my personal number. You can text me anytime on that number. Sure. Any other questions, guys? In the meanwhile, Wahab, any questions on your? You've been a bit silent today. Yeah, okay. Vamsi, any questions on your? You've been a bit silent today as well. Are you there, Vamsi? Okay, cool. Right. So yeah, that's that. Nothing further. Let's connect back on Monday again, and we'll complete the remaining two websites as well, and we dive into the next topic called scanning. That's the next phase of pen testing. Okay, so we'll cover that in the next session, guys. Sure, Charles. Again, might take a while to record, so don't wait on it. I'll share the record soon. Sure. Bye bye.